Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about dealing with tech as a midlife entrepreneur. Who can relate to that? All of us. Today, you'll be meeting Allyson Roberts, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who's rolled up her sleeves, taken back control, and figured out how to make tech work for her in her business. Welcome back to the show, Allyson. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We'll be talking about your business, what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and are challenging for you in life as well as a business owner. So let's get this started. Please tell us a little bit about how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and a little bit of detail about what you do and how you serve in the world.
Awesome. So I am 12 days away from being 58 years old.
Woo, we're going to party.
Yes, big birthday party. And I serve people who know that they have an amazing life on paper. Like they feel really good about life in general. But they keep running up against their goals not being met. And they don't understand what's happening. They're doing all the right things, and yet they're just not able to get to that next income level or get to that next like health level or relationship level. And it's all from childhood trauma. And so I teach people how to embrace that and have a really good time doing it. Because a lot of times people think that it's, not going to be fun or that it has to be this really scary thing. And I'm really funny and I just try to keep things light, but very effective at the same time.
It's so great that we're talking about something serious. And here's my 130-pound dog walking in, slobbering, nudging me, wanting treats. And we're just trying to keep it cool. He went away now. Thank goodness. The other thing that you mentioned in your show notes is that your father and grandfather were entrepreneurs. So you grew up with that. What's that like? Because I did not have any entrepreneurs in my family.
Yeah, so it was a really great lesson for me. My grandfather was a school teacher, and then he opened up a print shop in his garage. And then it grew to the largest printing company in Atlanta, Georgia, back in the 50s and 60s. And so then, of course, my dad and his two brothers joined forces with my grandfather. They all quit their jobs. They started working in the printing business. And so, I know what it's like to have like the feast and famine where businesses run really, really well. And then all of a sudden you have to rein everything in. Lots of conversations with my dad growing up about, you have your clients that kind of sustain you and keep the doors open, who are loyal. But then if you want to grow, you have to expose yourself and put yourself out there. My dad was a huge introvert, and so am I, believe it or not. So it really taught me the value of like building relationships and just how important it is to be yourself and to show up offering a service, but also treating people like they're human beings. It's just really super important.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. The other thing that kind of stood out in your interview, I love looking at people's path, their journey toward finding how they want to show up in the world. And yours started as an intake counselor at a shelter for battered and abused women. Then you got into real estate. And then finally you found life coaching in 2009, which is kind of early in life coach world. What was that all like? What were you thinking? Are you surprised about your path? I find the whole path thing fascinating.
I am surprised by my path. Honestly, I'm very grateful for my path. But working with battered women, the biggest takeaway from that is just how easy it is. And I don't mean easy as in like light or fun, but more easy as in just from a subconscious level to give our power over to, and look for someone else to rescue us kind of thing. And then just understanding that that was not my world. Like I just did not want to be in that world. And God bless the people who are in that. They are angels who can sustain giving that type of care. Then my older sister was in real estate and she was having a blast with it. And so I was like, that looks like a lot. So I was in real estate, but I also was giving like intuitive guidance to people on the side. And so, without pay or anything, all these people would just come to me, my friends, my relatives. And one day, one of my friends was like, you need to like combine this gift that you have of being able to kind of see someone's life and what their next higher self and what they need to get there. You need to combine that with like how well you know business and how you operate with business. And so I went back to school and, got that education and then came out of it. And I have thanked her many, many times for having that conversation with me, because it really is my life purpose and my mission. And I love it.
That's amazing. And, I find that epiphany is so creative that you can at first have fun at work, right? And then it doesn't need to be like completely separate part of your personality, that it can all be wrapped up. And, to apply gift to career and gift to helping people and passion to really help lift other people up. So yeah, like you weren't even, my guess is you probably weren't even thinking that was possible. Like the side gig just seemed to be, you probably took it for granted.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Majorly.
I find that when people are more fulfilled, when, I speak to a lot of women our age, and when we are actually fulfilled and we get out of the stuckness or the, I'm doing well in my career, but there must be more type of feeling, it usually does have to do with something that you've loved or been really talented with for decades, probably since you were a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And, my parents divorced when I was 10, and there was some other family trauma that was going on, growing up. And I think when that happens, that you don't feel worthy of and it really took me going through school. And because in that school, we were diving down deep into our own stuff, along with, some therapy that I had along the way. But really in school is when I started to be like, wow, I have a self-esteem that I need to fix. And
how old were you then?
I was 30.
Self-development is a very natural extension of so many of our growth, our process.
Yeah. What I find with a lot of women though, and it's not, I'm not bashing, I'm just pointing out an observation, is a lot of women that come into my program, they don't realize that they are waiting to, and they reach a point where it's like, well, my husband ain't going to rescue me. So maybe a coach will rescue. And usually by the time they get to me, they've been through one or two coaches, and they come to me just, okay, Allyson, like I've heard you on podcast, I've heard you on stage, or they read a post on social media or something, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to fix myself, show me how. And because it's way different if you sit down at someone's table and they put out a spread of food in front of you, than if you're in the kitchen and you bake that food yourself, and how much you learn along the way, not only about the food, but about yourself. And that's the kind of coach I'm going to stand in your kitchen and I'm going to say, okay, Suzy, you need 2 eggs, go to the refrigerator. Well, should I use the white eggs or the brown? You tell me. That's the kind of coach that I am. It's like, I'm empowering you to become your best self. And there's nothing better in the whole life than when a woman reaches that point, and I rescued with some help. But I rescued.
Yeah, some help, some tools, some support. Yeah. Absolutely. So you're really doing important work in the world. It's so great. Now, one of the things you also mentioned, I was really glad that you brought it up, is the challenges. So your 2 specific challenges, one is very common, and the other one, I wasn't sure if it was common or not because I haven't been personally affected by it. But on this podcast, we want to get really authentic and honest about what's really going on with women our age who are trying to run these amazing businesses so we can help people. And there are things going on. And you said you've got some family stuff going on and the tech challenges. So let's start with the tech challenges, because You are not alone. So I don't know. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, I remember the first piece of technology I got was a calculator.
Yeah.
$30. It was an expensive one. I was like, woo. So tell me what it was like for you, because I also really struggled with it. But tell me about your, challenge with tech.
Yeah, I mean, mine started in real estate when we had to have $119 or $199 calculator so that we could figure out people's mortgage payments.
Oh,
And so I just teamed up with a loan and just said, hey, I'm going to send you people and you can tell them what their mortgage payment's going to be and then hopefully win their business because it's like, I wasn't even going to deal with it. I'm like, I'm not dealing. And so I did myself a huge disservice.
interesting.
I
That sounds
just,
like a win to me.
well, what we avoid grows.
That is true.
It's just the way it is. And so when I became, a coach in 2009, then I hired Lisa Nichols to be my coach in 2014. And then she was like, well, you've got to have, a landing page and this. And I'm like, what? I mean, I was thinking like rocket ship. I'm like, what do you mean a landing? She's like, oh boy, do you have a website? And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Like, Allyson, you have to. Like, this is the age that we're going into now. People have to, they're going to find you online. And I'm no. And so I forced myself to sit down and learn Wix, which is, a website company. I forced myself to learn, that you start out on GoDaddy and they're the host for your website, but they're not necessarily the company that's serving it and all that stuff. Like I forced myself to learn all of that. And I'm not going to lie, like there were nights where I wanted to take a hammer and just completely smash my computer into the beds. I mean, I remember one morning just at like 5:30 in the morning, giving out a primal scream. And I lived in a townhouse at the time with very thin walls. And my neighbor was just like, banging on my front door. And I opened it up and she's like, oh my God, I called the police. And I was like, please. And so the police were, at my door. And 10
Oh
minutes
my
later,
God, Allyson, that's hilarious.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm just trying to learn technology. And the police officer was just cracking up. And he was like, they have classes for that, right? And I was like, no, I didn't know that. And so, yeah, so I actually went to a class.
Like bricks and
And
mortar, you walked into a room
I
and sat
walked
down?
into a room and sat down and, it was like a CE class for adults, and this like very nerdy older guy was like, okay, we're going to start from the beginning. And that was frustrating for me because I didn't need to start from, but I try to show up dumb to everything and just like, I know nothing so that I can
I
actually,
agree that that's the best.
yeah, just show up dumb, you know nothing so that you can learn something. Right. So I was like, Allyson, you're going to learn. And the biggest takeaway from him was to delegate the things that are too big. And so that's what I do now. I do what I can with technology. I can get on Zoom, I can go into my website and tweak a couple of things, but it's not going to be as pretty as Gabe, my tech guy, going and doing it. And it's going to take me 4 hours, takes him 4 minutes. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to do anything. The big 3 takeaways I have for number 1, learn enough so that you're not being taken advantage in your delegate of your IT business. Because unfortunately, when we don't know enough, I've been taken very advantage of by not knowing at least something. Number 2, find someone who understands what you don't know so that they can offer their services more intelligently to you, more intuitively. And the third thing is like, just don't be ashamed. I think, in our 50s, women were like, oh my gosh, it's to know everything. No, we're not. And we never will. And that's okay.
It's so good. I couldn't agree more with your recommendations. I'm the same. Like I hire somebody to deal with the website security and structure, any
Yeah.
development or structure. And I'm all in for tweaking. And it's a company that's not just 1 or 2 people, so that I do feel protected. Like there's always somebody available. Great, great advice. Now, family can also be challenging in so many ways as an entrepreneur. Tell me how it's come up for you.
Wow. So when I was 42, I found out that my entrepreneurial dad, we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, is not my biological.
Right. You know what? I've heard that several times this week.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yep. Not an entrepreneurial dad, but yeah, it's between ancestry and Facebook.
Yeah.
Many mysteries are becoming solved. Wow.
Yeah. For me, it was one of my siblings thought that I knew. And
One
so
of your siblings knew and you didn't know?
My whole family, all of our family, friends, everybody except
my
for
jaw
me.
is dropping on Zoom. My jaw is dropping.
Yeah. It was like Jim Carrey in the Truman Show,
Wow.
you know, when he finds out like my life is what I thought it was like for my whole life. And the layers of betrayal that I had to work through from ha 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 ha, we secret, you don't know it, you know, like just working through all of that, irregardless of then all of the other stuff that goes with finding out that information and then wanting to know like, okay, well, who is my biological father? And then finding that information, come to find out that he's deceased now. But like he's possibly tied to like crime and some other things, but he's a minister, you know, with one of the largest churches in the Southeast, and just like all these things where I've really it's taught me how to be Allyson, and that the only thing that really matters is the life that I build from. Yeah.
That's
because
so freeing. It's so freeing.
Yeah, it really is. But I had a nervous breakdown, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I didn't realize that I was having a nervous breakdown. I had no idea that that was with me, because on the outside I looked fine and everybody thought I was fine. And I was, you know, very high functioning and all of the things. But I made one horrific decision after the other that was just bringing me down, bringing me down, bringing me down. And it wasn't until I actually was speaking at a therapist at a convention that I was going to. And we were just sitting at a bar sharing a glass of wine and struck up a conversation. And I started, I don't know why, to this day, that I just decided to just pour it all out to her. I'm sure she was, hey. But she was like,
oh my,
may I speak freely? And I was like, yes. And she's like, I believe that you're coming out. I believe that you're on the other side of what I would term as a clinical nervous breakdown. And I just sat back in my chair and started bawling, because it was like, it's like feeling bad for 3 years. And then all of a sudden the doctor said, well, the good news is that I know what's wrong with you. And the bad news is that you have stage 2, you know, cancer, right? It's curable, but now you've got to go through all this chemotherapy and radiation. It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where she opened the door for me to start taking a very deep dive into my life and who I am. I'm forever good at.
You know, you've had 2 women who helped you out of the blue in very significant ways.
Yes. More than 2, actually. I mean, you and I could sit here for 4 hours and I could tell you like, and this woman and that woman.
But in your short story, these 2 women gave you incredible insight that changed your life. But you're right. Mentorship from women has been a very significant part of my life. So I'm so thrilled isn't the right word, but I'm just so pleased that you got this amazing insight when you need it most. So good. So yeah, family can really weigh into your ability to run your business and your life the way you want. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I want to tell the listeners, like, don't fake it. You know, if you have some heavy family stuff, go find someone, a coach, a therapist, someone who's been there and on the other side of it, to give you their wisdom and their perspective so that you can authentically get to the other side of that bridge. Because we are trained to fake it. We're from day one, you know, we just are.
And as women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing, where the rubber hits the road with faking it, as an entrepreneur who's focusing on a digital business life, is you're very visible. You have to be visible in some way. Somewhere along the line, you're picking a marketing strategy, and many of them involve a lot of visual visibility, audio visibility, social media visibility. And this is another hiccup that that many women on the podcast have been talking about. But you're right. Talking about it in terms of faking it. It's one thing to just get comfortable with being visible, but when this other layer is on there, when times of stress, it really can complicate things. And I know that I've seen very brave women being, courageously honest and authentic when things are, what's really going back when you pull back the curtain. And it just draws me in. Like I feel nothing but compassion and love,
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, we can be going through something and it doesn't mean that it makes us unqualified to run our business at the same time.
Especially when you are in touch with what you need. So if you do need a break or if you do need to pull back from visibility or something like that. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So another thing that I love that you shared is the topic of being discouraged. And you noted in your notes that sometimes you notice you get more discouraged with more ease at 57 than at 47. And you think it might be related to kind of this imaginary timer, as you talked about. Can you share that a little bit?
Yes. So I've noticed at 57 that like if I go to launch a program, I find that if I don't get my desired result, that there's this feeling that starts happening inside of me that I call like the revving engine. It's like, vroom, vroom, but you're not really going anywhere. It's like, and I'm like, I can hear myself start to say like, it's not like I have, 50 years to get this right.
Yeah.
It's got to be now because I want it to be now. Like
I'm running out of
was
time.
not like that in my 30s and 40s,
Right.
Yeah. And I want to work, I want to work. I love working. And so, there really is no timer for me. I will work probably until, I'm well into my 70s or 80s just because I love it. It'll
Yeah,
look
absolutely. And you have an
it'll look
idol.
very different, but, you know, um, so I know that it's not really there, but that feeling comes up of, well, I'm 57, almost 58. Like, if it doesn't work now, it never will. Like, I just really start beating myself up. I have to bring myself down.
Yeah. And it's such a conflict because as entrepreneurs, we know that there's trial and error. Like,
Yes, with everything.
We need to fail and tweak and fail and learn and fail and tweak. Like, we need that
Yeah.
to grow. So when you're constantly telling yourself that, you're basically running out of time, you don't have the kind of time to be prudent, that can't help. Now, I did love that you pointed out your idol is Louise Hay. Tell me why.
I saw her about 3 or 4 years before she transitioned to the other side. And she had to have been like in her late, and she came on stage. She had on pink stilettos and leopard pant and this like glittery blouse. And she just doesn't care. Like she
Legit.
never, yeah, she authentically, legitimately never cared what anyone thought about her. She had a mission. She lived that mission. She failed miserably many times, landing completely flat on her face. And with men coming to her and saying, you're never going to get your business off the ground. You're running it completely wrong. And she was just like, forget you. Like I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to make it work. And she did. And that is, to me, she is the true icon of a female who owned her power in a field where everyone rolled their eyes and were kind of like, angels, guides, and masters. No, it's the Bible. Like, what are you talking about? Or it's the Torah. Like, you're crazy. She didn't care. She was like, no, there is a place for this and people need this. And I'm going to keep putting it out into the world. And I really don't care what you traditional business people think about it. I'm going to do it. And she did. And she's phenomenal. And she opened the door for a lot of women.
And you said she worked till she was 89?
She worked until she took her last breath.
Wow.
And I believe she was 92 or 3 when
my
she
gosh.
went to sleep.
You raise a really good point about loving work and, when we think we should retire versus when we think we want to retire. And it's so interesting that you have this goal to work as long as you can because you love it, yet you still have that thinking that you got to hurry up because, yeah. Aren't we fascinating humans?
We are. We are.
Now, the other thing you pointed out that just made me smile was that you're really surprised that at this point in your life, you're very quick to bounce back and that you don't take things so personally. And why do you think you were able to get to that point?
I think my family, so what happened with my family is that my birth family that I grew up with, when all of the truth came out, they were like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, what's that? And then when I found my new family, they were like, you're just a painful reminder that our dad cheated on our mom. Like, we really don't want to have anything to do with. So I lost both families all at the same time with like in a period of like a year and a half. Everybody just left. They just all they all went away. And so when that happens, you have two choices. You can either become a people-pleasing doormat and go and beg your family to love you, just so that you can have some kind of family connection and completely give yourself away to them. Or you can become your true, authentic self, understanding that that is all of their stuff and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And that is the path.
Very powerful stuff there, Allyson. You're awesome. So when I asked in the notes about the 3 most important points you wanted to make during your interview, one of them you said was creating an amazing reality while navigating ageism. It's essential for lifelong happiness. And I couldn't agree more. So when you think about creating an amazing reality with ageism all around us, what is your vision for that?
The very first thing that we have to do is take away the meaning, all of the negative meanings that we have in our getting. And I like to do that with emotional techniques. So, I find myself a lot of times, even though I'm this age, I choose to love on. So I use a lot of emotional freedom technique to kind of neutralize that negative. And then it's really getting into your imagination station. So I have a 4-year-old grandson and he does things like fly airplanes and put out fires. And I mean, in his mind, he's doing it. Like he is there. He's making it happen. And I think when we get older, we can appreciate imagination. But I find that a lot of women just don't tap into it. They don't think it works. They feel like it's a waste time. And it all starts there. Like you have to have a vision first. You can't build an amazing life if you don't first have a vision of what that amazing life looks like.
I agree. One of my most popular blogs was the importance of acting your shoe size instead of your age.
Yeah.
And it really touches on what you're talking about, like to become playful again, to just dream a little bit and be silly, to access some of those ideas that you haven't allowed yourself think about in decades. So good. Well, how can people best get in touch with you?
The best way to reach me is to go onto my website, Allyson, ALLYSON, Roberts.com. And there's a free gift waiting there for them. It's a meditation. I love it so much because I recorded it in studio and it has subliminal abundance messages underneath the actual meditation itself.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes. And so as you're listening, yes, please do. Because as you're listening to it, your subconscious is being told things like, it's your time for your word. They deserve this, but you don't hear it. Only your subconscious brain is it. So it really helps to kind of wash out that stuff, the garbage.
So cool. That sounds kind of high tech, Allyson. I don't know how you manage that. Good job. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time from your day to share all of this. I really appreciate your entrepreneurial journey, including trying different things and absolutely dealing with tech. I totally love what you're doing. You're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Suzy.
All right, that's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to come on the show, we'd love to have you. So head over to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.